She's back. Let me tell you something. I have been very interested in the solar panel discussion for a while now. I live in the state of Georgia. It's very sunny. However, I don't really see that much solar panels out here. And I was very curious to know why. I know Florida, our neighboring state, they're very big on solar panels, right? But I've heard so many negative stories about the solar panel industry, and I don't really think it's regulated as it should be because of the predatory behavior that I've heard about these companies. But I wanted to see what's going on with the solar panel industry and react to a video. I've never seen this video before. Okay, we're gonna react to it together. Okay, so this is a video. Let me put my glasses on for this one. This is a video talking about people are regretting putting solar panels on their houses. Let me go ahead and share my screen.
A lot of people are regretting their decision to put solar panels on their home. You know, this was promised to be one of the next best things since electricity was invented. The idea that you could put solar panels on your property or your home and never have to pay an electric bill again. However, the truth is very far from that. And I want to go over some of the pros and cons of putting solar panels on your roof or on your property, and give you an idea of what other people who have already done it have to say about it, and even how some of the new laws that are coming down from our government could influence people putting solar panels on their homes in the future. So let's start with the good stuff, because a lot of people say we don't have enough good news on this channel. So let's talk about the good stuff. Number one, lower electricity bills. Doesn't mean no electricity bill, it means lower electricity bill, at least in most cases.
Interesting, because I always thought that the reason, let me lower this. I always thought that the reason why solar panels are such great ideas is because of the idea that there is no electric bill. However, I'm finding out in this video and so many other people who are complaining about solar panels that you will still have an electric bill. And some people, their electric bills did not go down. It stayed the same. Plus, they're paying to finance this solar panel. There's so many. After this video is done, I will tell you all the stories that I've heard about solar panels, because it's not good.
You put solar panels on your property, usually you will still have a small electric bill, but essentially you are selling most of the electricity that you are producing back to the power company and kind of getting like a credit each month towards your bill. And a lot of times you don't produce more than you actually use, and that's why people still have an electricity bill even if they have solar panels. But it is possible to have no electric bill if you actually make more electricity than you consume. And why you still have to be connected to the electric grid when you have solar panels has always been beyond me. I don't have an answer for that. I think it's ridiculous. I think if you have solar panels, you should be allowed to just work completely independently off the grid, even if you're in the middle of a city or a town, whatever, and just use your own electricity. The second pro of solar panels is the fact that it is renewable and sustainable.
Wait, before he even gets deeper into it, the electric industry, right? The electric grid industry, I'm finding out that it's a lot of corruption going on within that, and it's a lot of people rubbing shoulders, right? And the electric companies have agreements with the government entities, right? Because they're technically contractors with the government entities, and so they're rubbing shoulders and they're getting preferential treatment, because it does not make sense that in order for me to not have to worry about my energy bill, I have to get a credit from the electric company with my solar panel when I could just use my solar panel to power up my house. Like, why is it that I have to sell you my power that I am generating? Like, that doesn't even make any sense to me. But that is
energy. As long as we have the sunshine, then we will have solar energy. That's pretty much self-explanatory. The third pro is the potential tax credits and incentives, which we'll get to later in this video. The federal government and many local governments offer tax credits, rebates, and
not
other
Georgia, though.
incentives that significantly reduce your upfront costs for putting solar panels on your property. They even have a program like this in Florida as well, where the Florida government will partially pay for you to put.
Veterans, did you know that the tech industry is experiencing a talent shortage of 3.5?
Gotta skip that. Sorry, it's a YouTube video.
Solar panels on your property. Another pro, or at least it's what's supposed to be a pro of getting solar panels, is it's supposed to protect you from rising energy costs, because the electric bill is one of those bills that hardly ever goes down in life. So the idea is if you have solar panels, especially if you live in a place like California where the electric bill is through the roof, then you're supposed to kind of hedge yourself against getting higher electric bills in the future, because now you're producing most of your own energy. Another pro is that in some places you can even sell your excess electricity back to the grid, generating a credit or even an income. But you need to really produce quite a bit more than you actually use in order to actually have this work, but it is possible for some people. And another pro, especially for people who do this, who live off grid and in those type of situations, is it gives them energy dependence, where they actually don't have to rely on any electricity company, because there isn't one within miles of where they live. There are no power lines. So this is their only way to actually produce electricity for their property, and it gives them 100% independence and reliance on themselves. And a lot of people who do this really do like that. Now let's get into the cons, which I think there are a lot more cons than there are pros to putting on the solar panels, unfortunately. The number one thing is the high upfront costs. The purchase and installation of these solar panels can be tens of thousands of dollars. I've even heard of people paying upwards of $90,000 depending on how many panels you need, the company, the area, and the installation. It can get very nuts. Another downside is that the savings really depend on where you live and how high the electric bills are to begin with. Like if you live in an area where it's cloudy half the year, or you got 6 months of winter, like where I grew up in Illinois, and it's just overcast a lot of days, you're not going to be producing a whole lot of solar energy. Or if you live in an area where the electric bill just isn't that expensive in general, like say in most of Washington state, where it's so much cheaper than here in California, it might not even be worth the hassle or make sense to even have solar energy. The third downside is there is a very long payback period. It can take several years, anywhere between 6 to 12 years or even beyond, to recoup the initial investment through energy savings. Another downside is just the aesthetic concerns, is that they're just kind of an eyesore, especially when they're on the roof of the house. They don't necessarily look that great and can be a detractor and maybe even a turnoff for some potential home buyers, which is another situation we'll get into a little bit later on. And if you live in an HOA community, you might need to get approval from the HOA or even your local government. Or even if you don't live in an HOA, you have to get permits and permission to be able to install these, whether it's on your roof or in your yard or whatever. This is a big downside as well, is that if you sell your home, transferring a solar lease or a
So before he keeps going, right, I want to address one thing about because I would have let him keep going, but I need to butt in really quickly. There are situations where the people no longer want the solar panels anymore, and some people are leasing a solar panel. They're not buying it to keep it, to own it. They're leasing it. And when they install the solar panels, now they're saying they no longer want the solar panels. Do you know, to take down a solar panel, you have to tear down the entire roof and put in new roofing? That is tens of thousands of dollars that you have to do to take it down and install a whole new roof. Because you're leasing, you're not buying it to own it. You're leasing this thing. It's not yours. And some people don't even know they're leasing it because of the predatory practices of these companies. Like they tell them, oh, you know, get some solar panels. And they don't realize they're signing a contract to lease it and not own it. So they're paying monthly for this thing that is not going to end up being theirs. There are even situations that I've seen, and I'm guessing I'm not going to wait until the end to get to my point, but I've seen situations where there's a backup battery pack for these solar panels, and the battery pack is what is used to store up the energy used from when the sun comes out, right? And when the sun is down, it's still going to keep running because of this battery pack. Well, the battery pack is not working. You still need your electricity, right? The battery pack is down. You still have, and these people try to reach out to the solar panel companies, and I might make a whole separate video about it because this video is 20 minutes long and I'm already 10 minutes in, just yapping it up. But there are situations where they try to reach out to these companies and these companies no longer exist, or they sold it into another company, or they renamed their company. These solar panels are very predatory. It's very important to read the reviews, right? Talk to people who have this particular companies, but also read your contract thoroughly, because as a real estate agent, I understand the value of really reading the contracts. Like, it's no joke. But yeah, these companies, and I don't know if he's going to talk about these companies' predatory practices, but it should be highlighted as a con of having a solar panel.
Loan can complicate the sale process of the house. And in this market, it's already very difficult to sell a property now. And the last thing that any home seller needs is another obstacle to getting the house sold. And unfortunately, solar panels can be exactly that. And one of the main problems with solar panels is when people get them, they go into debt in order to get them. People finance solar panels that result in long-term loans that can really strain your budget.
Sometimes these loans are even like up to 50 years. These loans make it hard to sell your house because it's either you pay off that solar panel or you pass on the lease of that solar panel or the finances of that solar panel payment to the buyer. I've seen a situation where a buyer purchased the property, took on the debt of the solar panel, thinking it's a great idea. Like, I'm buying this house, I don't have to worry about electric bill. The electric bill stayed the same, and the solar panel was trash. The solar panel was not working, and they still have to keep paying those payments, making those payments to those solar panels. So you can see how it's a deterrent for a lot of people who want to buy a house and see a huge, ugly solar panel on the, well, personally, I don't think it's ugly. I don't know. People think it's ugly, but personally, I don't think it's ugly. But a lot of people find it ugly. But in their personal opinion, if they see this ugly thing on their roof, and they're like, oh, I want to buy this house, but there's that thing that's sitting there, or it's expensive, I have to take on the debt of this solar panel to buy this house. Or if I ask you to take the solar panel out, you're going to have to take off the entire roof. It's a lot. But anyway.
And in a lot of cases, they underperform, meaning that they're not getting as much of a benefit as they initially hoped for. And now they have this extra payment that they're stuck with on their home. Here's a house for sale that I just ran into that was last sold in 2006 for about $6.5 million. And then they actually listed it for sale back in 2021 and have been trying to sell this house ever since. They listed it for about $11.5 million back then, and have been steadily lowering the price throughout the years until fast forward to today, where the price of the home is $9.5 million, and it is still not sold. After $2 million price reduction and 4 years on the market, here is a house that is not selling. Looks a lot like Florida over here in parts of Northern California. And there's even a house for sale right across the street as well. Other problems with hitting the solar panels are things like...
Wait. Does that... I don't think the solar panel has anything to do with that property. That was just a random statement that he made. He's talking about a random house, but I don't think that house is not being sold because of the solar panel. It's just not being sold. That was so random, but it's still weird that the house has been on the market since 2021. That's 4 years. My goodness.
Return on investment. The reduction in your electric bill just might not be enough to actually justify the cost of the system. And then you have a lot of unexpected costs that can come along with it. The panels often increase monthly expenses instead of reducing them due to the financing charges or if there's any repairs that are not covered under a warranty or there's damage, something like that. And to make matters even worse, your homeowner's insurance could even drop you or significantly raise your premiums if you install these solar panels on the roof of your home. Something you really need to look into before doing that. Now let's talk about some of the problems that come up when you're trying to sell your house that has solar panels on it. You have second lien complications. Like I said earlier, the solar panels are usually financed and that lien is attached to the home and complicates the resale of the property. And unfortunately, a lot of buyers don't want to assume solar panel debt. So you as the seller might have to cough up the dough from the sale of the property and just pay off those solar panels before even selling the house, kind of like a condo owner who owes a special assessment in order to satisfy the buyer. And another thing that's required a lot lately by insurance companies is getting a new roof on the house, especially in Florida, before you can get homeowners insurance. And one thing that's happening is sometimes when you have these solar panels.
Wait. I don't know what he said there. I'm going to rewind it because I don't think I heard what he said correctly.
Getting a new roof on the house, especially in Florida, before you can get homeowners insurance.
I didn't catch that.
Assume solar panel debt. So you as the seller might have to cough up the dough from the sale of the property and just pay off those solar panels before even selling the house, kind of like a condo owner who owes a special assessment in order to satisfy the buyer. And another thing that's required a lot lately by insurance companies is getting a new roof on the house, especially in Florida, before you can get homeowners insurance.
Really?
And one thing that's happening.
Oh my goodness. I heard correctly. Wait, hold up. I might need to rewind and hear what he just said because excuse me? Huh? Hold on. Florida, please.
Owner who owes a special assessment in order to satisfy the buyer. And another thing that's required a lot lately by insurance companies is getting a new roof on the house, especially in Florida, before you can get homeowners insurance.
What? Florida is bugging. When I go live on TikTok and I have people from Florida come on my live streams and, telling me how the market is crazy out there in Florida, I've heard stories, but this is insane. This man said in order for you to sell your property or buy a property and insurance will accept this property and give me a policy with them, the roof have to be completely replaced. Now imagine in this situation with a solar panel. The roof has to be completely replaced, which means the solar panel needs to go as well. So imagine someone that's paying for a solar panel, they owe $30,000 on this solar panel. But in order for you to sell this property, the entire roof have to be taken down. Oh my goodness. I don't even know what to say. In this case, it sounds like a solar panel is not an investment. Or no, it is an investment. It's just a bad investment. It's a bad investment, my goodness.
And one thing that's happening is sometimes when you have these solar panels installed on the roof of the property, it can actually void the roof warranty, which further affects the resale value of the property. And if you have any problems with the roof afterwards, well, guess who's going to be paying for that? Not the roofing company. Now let's talk about some of the installation and maintenance issues. You can face permit delays. Sometimes these installations take a year or more to be fully operational due to local regulations. You also are going to have roof damage if you install them on the roof.
First of all, I just want to say, there are a lot of hills where this man is walking, and the streets are very narrow. I don't know, but maybe because I'm not used to streets like that, but I think it's so cute. Would I live in a street like that? I don't know, because for a $9 million house being so small, you know what I mean? Like, and the streets being so small, so narrow, I don't know. But I think it's so cute. It reminds me of like, you know, like streets in Europe. Like when you watch these movies and they're walking down a narrow pathway, this is what it reminds me of. I think this is like an action movie type of scene. But yeah, it's very interesting.
You'll face some unexpected expenses when your roof needs to be replaced, because let's say your roof is 20 years old, you put solar panels on and now your roof needs to be replaced. Well, a lot of times you have to foot the bill for that. You have to foot the bill for not only the roofing, the new roof, but those panels must now be removed and reinstalled at your expense, the homeowner's expense. Check out the view from up here. I'm up here on Belvedere Island today.
That's beautiful.
And this is the view facing south.
That's beautiful.
Towards Sausalito.
I'm not gonna lie.
Still paying 3.5% on every sale? Cut the platform fees and keep the
about 68 degrees today.
I kind of ruined the beauty.
People ask why I come to California in the summertime. When was
That's
the last
why.
time we had a 68 and sunny degree day in Florida? Just think about that for a little bit. Probably January. Now, here's a big problem when it comes to the installation of these solar panels is that
sunny. That's nice.
a lot of these companies can be very fly-by-night and can go out of business or rebrand themselves, making it hard to enforce warranties down the road. I mean, if it goes out of business, you're pretty much screwed. And if they say, well, we were bought out by another company and we're not honoring those warranties,
that's what I talked about.
You're also screwed. What are you going to do? Sue? Real estate agents also typically advise against getting solar panels due to the deal complications that they induce, and can also lead to lower appraisals in some cases, because homes with solar loans often appraise lower than the loan balance, leaving sellers underwater. So say, for example, your house is worth $400,000 and you owe $300,000 on it. You have $100,000 in equity, but then you borrow 70 grand to put solar panels on. The value of your home just dropped 50 grand because the housing market's coming down. Well, now you're essentially underwater on that property, which is not a place you want to find yourself if you are selling your home. Another thing that a lot of people don't talk about is the fire hazard risk that solar panels can potentially present. You know, because poorly installed systems can pose fire risk, especially if there's any lithium batteries involved, which usually they are if you want to store some of that power that you're generating. So if you are somebody who does want to get solar, for sure, and anything I said here doesn't dissuade you from doing it, here's a few things you want to look at. Number one, you pay cash. You don't go into debt. You don't finance the solar panels, just like anything else.
That's if you have the cash for it.
If you can't afford to pay for it up front, then you truly can't afford it, and you shouldn't be buying it.
Yeah.
That's it. Also, try to avoid a roof installation. Install the panels on the ground, on the shed, or in the backyard somewhere in order to reduce some of your risks, especially when it comes to getting dropped by insurance or having roof damage or anything like that. Here's a big one. You need to vet the installation company extensively.
I was going to say
you have to choose a long-established, reputable company that has, you know, a long history and has been in business for a long time that you can count on in 10 or 15 years when you need maintenance or something needs to happen with these panels. You don't want to just hire somebody offering you the best deal who just started up yesterday.
Right.
And I do see a lot of people here in California that actually have solar panels. In fact, you can't really see it too well here, but you can kind of tell that they have solar panels on top of the roof of this garage here. It is kind of popular here because people in California were promised to save a lot of money from getting these solar panels, but in many cases, that promise hasn't been delivered. And now Trump's tax and spending bill is threatening some of the solar incentives that are out there currently. Right now, the proposed tax and spending package could eliminate key federal financial incentives for clean energy, especially solar. And the bill hasn't been passed yet.
Isn't it so interesting? Because they were like pushing clean energy. You get tax incentives on clean energy and buying a electric vehicle, clean energy. Now people are being reprimanded. That's why it's like you just got to do your own thing, and it's just a lot. I feel like right now America is It's like a movie. It's like a movie because you told us that we would get incentives if we did this, and now we're doing it, and now we're getting backlash. Crazy.
That's the Senate, and it's awaiting a second reading in the House, and it still needs the president's signature, but more than likely it's probably going to go. Currently, right now, the federal solar incentives are that homeowners and renters can currently claim a 30% federal tax credit on costs of installing solar panels and clean energy upgrades, things like batteries. And here in California, the average solar installation costs dropped from about $16,500 to about $11,500 after applying the credit. So some of the changes that might happen.
$11,500. I've heard these solar panels going upwards of $40,000, $50,000, unless he's saying like $11,000 per panel, maybe. I don't know, but from what I've heard of how expensive they are, $11,000 is a steal, but I think it's probably per panel.
Bill passes is that there will be a new deadline for solar tax credits that could be set to expire by the end of this year in 2025. If you're leasing solar panels, you might still be able to benefit for 2 more years until the end of 2027. That isn't entirely clear yet. People who install solar systems before the deadline would still qualify for the credits, and households who already have solar installed or have paid by December 31st of 2025 can keep claiming credits over multiple tax years. So basically it's going to be a race to get solar panels installed by the end of the year if it's something you want to take advantage of if this passes. And the problem is here in California, they have already slashed the credits for solar customers who are trying to sell their power back to the grid. So that's kind of a broken promise.
Oh, wow.
And this situation is just going to make it worse. Essentially, it's going to be like a 30% price hike for getting solar installed starting January 1st of 2026. Now I want to go over some of the comments I read in some other YouTube videos.
I think I'm going to edit right there. I think this is very interesting. Honestly, I feel like the solar panel industry is something that a lot of people are not really digging deep into it, just like the housing market. I feel like a lot of people aren't really digging into it like they should, right? They're looking at ththings very surface level, like, oh, if I get the solar panel, I'm not gonna have to pay for electric bill, or I'm gonna get a tax incentive and the government gives me incentives. But at the end of the day, like, you have to look at the big picture. Do your research before you do anything, especially if you're paying something tens of thousands of dollars. Listen, like, I know, like, to me, it's so crazy. But the thing is, like, you don't know what you don't know, right? Because I was there once upon a time when I purchased properties, not really doing research and just buying it, right? Because I had the money. And, finding out that, it's not as simple as it seems. And so I understand their perspective, but it's just hard to see people make decisions without doing research, especially if they're paying so much money for this. They're going to be stuck with this loan for years. It's not you know what, I'm going to owe it for like 2-3 years and I'm going to pay it off. Like, no, like, you're going to be stuck with it for years. But anyway, y'all, let me know what you guys think about this video. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, make sure you click a like. Subscribe to get more videos from your girl. Okay, look, I'm messing up my bun. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.